Hello everyone, my name is Landon and welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be going over my top 10 favorite Stephen King novels. Now in my last video I did my top 5 worst, and I don't think there are 10 worst Stephen King novels. I think those 5 are the only ones that I really didn't like that much. Everything else was pretty good to me. That's why I only made 5, not 10. But I'm making a 10 list here because there are so many books that I just love by him, and you get to know a little bit more about me than you didn't. So, let's get right into it and start off with the number 10 spot. We have Thinner. If you guys saw one of my previous videos, Thinner was on my top 5 scariest Stephen King novels list, and it's definitely deserved. This novel is creepy. To watch Billy Halleck go through the changes that he does when he's a super fat man and then goes to being a super skinny man and just like wasting away is terrifying to read. It's actually pretty awful to read. There are so many great scenes in this book. There's a lot of dialogue in here that's really fun to read. And what really is the best part of this book for me is the ending. The ending of this book is probably one of the most depressing endings I've ever read. So, in the end of the novel, I'm spoiling all these books, by the way. In the end of the novel, Billy Halleck gets the curse removed off of him, and he puts it into a pie, because that's the only way. It can't be fully removed. It has to be put into some sort of object, and they put it into a pie. And he got the pie, he got the curse removed, he has the pie, and he's going to give it to one of his, co-workers or something like that. He's going to give it to somebody who he doesn't really care about that much, and they're going to have to eat it. And he brings the pie home, puts it on the table, goes to sleep. Wakes up the next morning, and he realizes that his wife and his daughter had both eaten the pie, and there was still a little bit of it left. And he realized that, well, now they have the curse. Now they're the ones who are going to get thinner. Now they're the ones that are going to waste away and die. What's the purpose of living? He gets a piece of the gypsy pie and re-curses himself, and then wastes away as well. That ending, I don't know why, I love that ending. And he wrote this when he was writing as Richard Bachman, his pen name. And it's just so amazing. This book isn't that long, too. It's only 420 pages. And I loved every second of this book, especially the ending. That's what I really loved about it, mostly. Alright. At the number 9 spot, we have The Dead Zone. This is a case where the book is much better than the movie. Don't get me wrong, the movie is great, but the book was so much better. Excuse me. The Dead Zone, another one of those cases where the ending just blew me away. I was on my edge of the seat the entire time throughout this book, when he was in the coma, when he got in the car crash, when he was figuring out what Johnny Smith was figuring out, when he met the politician and he had to kill him and he had to save the world and stuff like that. I was constantly hoping that a good thing would happen in the end. And a good thing sort of did, but a bad thing sort of did. Johnny Smith, in the end, he saved mankind. He killed the politician, or well, he didn't kill him. He basically stopped the politician from being voted into office as the president, and that saved the world, and Johnny Smith's life is basically the cost for that. He shoots at the politician, but he's too hurt, he's used his powers too much, he's hurt, and he can't really aim that well. He misses the shot, and he gets shot, but the politician puts a baby up in defense, and that ruins his career, and now he's the one who suffers, and eventually, I'm pretty sure, in the movie, it shows that he commits suicide. Not Johnny Smith, the politician, and that's why the world is saved. And Johnny Smith dies in the end, and his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend actually, she got married while he was in the coma, she didn't wait for him. She visits his grave, and she reads the letter that he wrote to her, and the letter was the most emotional part about this book. This would probably be number 1 on my top 5 emotional Stephen King endings. This ending was very emotional. It was very moving, very touching at the end, and all around, a really great read. Number 8, we have Misery. A lot of you guys probably saw this one coming. This one was actually in a fight with my number 7 spot for which one got the number 7 spot. This one almost made it to number 7, but I liked the number 7 just a tad bit more. But either way, Misery, another shorter novel, only 422 pages, and this movie is my 4th favorite movie of all time and my favorite movie adaptation of any book of all time. And for the fact that the movie captures the book so well. It obviously had to take out some of the gruesome scenes where she chops off his foot or takes off his thumb or makes him drink the dirty water. It definitely dies those parts down a little bit, but it doesn't lose the spirit of the story. And the ending of this book was very good, how he was hiding in the bathroom, and when the police got there, they couldn't find Annie, and he one who captured Paul Sheldon. He was hiding in the bathroom, and he got out of the bathroom, and the cops were there, and the cops couldn't find her. And that terrified Paul Sheldon, but they did end up finding her. She died of blood loss or something like that. She had hit her head too hard after they fought in the room. And my favorite part about this book is just how awful it is to read about Paul Sheldon living in this house for so long and forcing to write, and Annie Wilkes forcing him to write something that he didn't want to write and didn't need to write. And in the end, when he burns the book and they fight, is just, it's a great scene, great novel all around. And that's number 8. At the number 7 spot, the one that was fighting for Misery, is Christine. Much like Misery, this is my second favorite Stephen King adaptation or book adaptation. I loved the movie, and I loved the movie because it took all of the bad parts out of the book, even though there weren't that many. There were definitely parts in the 700-page behemoth of a book that didn't need to be there. It could have maybe been 150 to 100 pages shorter, but I still love the story. I love cars, I love Christine, I love the 1958 Plymouth Fury, the blood red car. The characters are great. I love Arnie, I love Dennis, I love Lee. I love how they try to stop Christine in the end. The ending of the book is definitely better than the movie. The book captures the ending of the book much better because Christine doesn't tag up with Arnie in the end like she does in the movie. She actually kills Arnie and then tries to fight off Lee on her own, Lee and Dennis. And then the epilogue of the book where Dennis realizes that a car had ran over one of his long friends that was in another city, and then he realizes that he thinks Christine is going to be coming for him next. It's a terrifying way to end the book. Everything in this book was great, especially since I watched the movie first so I could see all the characters as the actors. And the book was a lot like the movie. There were definitely some scenes changed, but other than that, great book. My favorite death in this book was Will Darnell's. They didn't capture Will Darnell's death in the movie very well, but in the book, oh my god, it is insane. Coming in at the number 6 spot. This is a very controversial book. Everybody, you either hate this book or you love this book, and I'm one of the people who absolutely adores it, and it is Sleeping Beauties. I read this book last year. It came out last year. And there's something about this book that I just loved. I loved the concept of this book. The ending of this book. Oh my god, I loved the ending of this book. The ending of this book I adored. I didn't really like how there were so many characters that you had to keep up with, but I did end up keeping up with them. And I actually did end up falling in love with Evie and, I can't remember his exact name, but the main guy, I read this book a few months back, I can't remember his name, but Evie Black, she's a great villain, but she's also a great hero. She basically is the villain of the book, but in the end, she's also the hero of the book, and that's what makes her character so great, and how she saves the women, and how people realize that a society without women is awful, and how the women realize that a society without men is awful, and then once they come out of the cocoons and Evie brings them through the door to back to the real world, everybody realizes, everybody reconnects with each other, and even the animals in the end of the book, people realize that there shouldn't be any more war. Even the animals realized, a rabbit and a fox were communicating with each other in the end of the book, and they were and the fox was just I just want peace, or something like that. It was the fox said, I'll whisper it to your ear, and the rabbit came up close to the fox's mouth, his mouth was close to the rabbit's ear, and I was that's not good, isn't the fox going to rip off the head? But no, he said, I want there to be peace between us, and I just loved how Stephen King and Owen King did that. I loved the ending of this book, and the characters were great, the story was great. There was definitely parts in the middle that didn't need to be, much like a lot of his books, but still. Now we're getting into the good stuff, the top 5. And actually, I'm going to have to pull up a picture on my phone because I actually don't have this book. It's one of my books that's out right now. One of my friends actually finished reading it, but she has not returned it to me yet. So I'm just going to put it up at the screen. Focus. Come on. It was focusing earlier. Hang on. Well, either way, if you guys can't... There we go. Alright. Stephen King's Insomnia. This was another one of those books where I picked it up and instantly I knew I was gonna like it. I loved the characters, I loved the storyline. The ending is all like The Dead Zone. It's a very moving ending. You don't see it coming, and I loved how Stephen King used insomnia as a power that Ralph had. Ralph being the character in the book, he's a 70-year-old man. That's also a great thing. The main character in this book is a 70-year-old man with insomnia, and the insomnia actually helps him to see some things that like the normal human eye can't see. And he can like go through like the levels of the world, the like dimensions and stuff like that. He can go to like the second floor and the first floor of the world and talk to like these, like I think it was like Lycosis. I can't remember their exact names. It was like there was the bad midget, and then there were the two good midgets, and one of the good midgets was named Lycosis, I think. I can't remember the other one's names, but and he had to stop basically something that everybody else didn't see coming but him, and also his girlfriend. Yes, he's 70 years old, and in the book he has a girlfriend, and that's also a great part about the book. I'm just gonna get my other book right here, but that's what's great about it, the mystery of the book. Everybody doesn't know what's going on, and only him and his girlfriend, I think her name was Lois, were the only two who knew, and the only two who could stop whatever was coming. There was a cost in the end. Ralph actually does end up dying in the end of the book, but he makes a noble sacrifice. He saves the daughter of one of the main other girls in the book. I can't remember her name either. I'm doing terrible with names right now. But he saves the little girl's life, and he already knew that he had to save the little girl's life and die for it. And that's his heroic sacrifice. That's the way that he ends off the book. And it was an amazing read. Insomnia, definitely check it out. At the number 4 spot we're 11 minutes into this video, oh my god. Needful Things. I'll try and go through these next few faster. Needful Things, another big book. I love reading big novels. This is about 950 pages long. What really hit it off with me with this book is the villain. I love Leyland Gaunt, and it's so crazy. Like, he's the devil, but not really. He's definitely a form of the devil, or he's definitely a demon. And the way that he chooses to torture his victims. He tortures his victims by giving them what they want, but they have to do something bad to somebody that they actually care about. He gives a baseball card that's signed by somebody who that kid never would have thought would sign the card, and he had to like throw rocks through like a window or something like that of like one of his neighbors. And this is what happens to Castle Rock, and everything goes under. Everybody's doing something for that. Everybody's doing something for Leyland Gaunt to someone else to get what they want. Somebody gets their finger movements back, like they don't have like shaky hands anymore, and they get their finger movements back, but there's a cost with that. And if there's also the cards, he has to throw the rocks through the window. Somebody skins a dog at one point. It's just all crazy. And the ending could have been a little better. This is the only book on this list where I thought the ending could have been better, but what really makes up for it is definitely everything in the middle. The enemy is amazing. And yeah. Okay. Number 3. Dreamcatcher. You guys saw this one coming if you guys saw my video last Saturday, I think. Or maybe it was Thursday, I'm not exactly sure. But Dreamcatcher. I'm not going to go into detail with this one, because if you guys want to see me go into detail with it, go to my video. It's called Why I Love Dreamcatcher. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say about this book. Just go watch that video if you want to see everything I have to say about Dreamcatcher. Number 3, Dreamcatcher. Alright, I think that's done. We're done with the top row. Oh, wait, no, there's still one more book. Alright, at the number 2 spot we have Salem's Lot. The book that I didn't really want to like. What I mean by that is that I looked up at least every single top 10 Stephen King list online, and this made it into the top 10 almost every time it made it into the top 5. And I was like, I really don't want to like this book because everybody else loves it, and then I read it and I ended up falling madly in love with this book. This book is absolutely incredible. The villain in it, Ben Mears is the hero. Kurt Barlow, the enemy, the vampire who takes over the town, is amazing. This was actually in my top 5 scariest Stephen King novels as well, like Thinner. And I just love everything about this book. The characters, like Ben Mears, I always forget the kid's name, Mark Petrie, and Kurt Barlow, the enemy, alongside his ally, but it wasn't really an ally. I can't remember his name. He actually ended up dying in the end. I can't remember his name right now, but characters like Father Callahan. And what's great about this book is that you feel for the characters, and when they died, you actually feel sad. Like when when the love interest of Ben Mears dies to Kurt Barlow, you feel for Ben Mears. You feel for yourself because you just lost a character that was so important to the book, and that's what's really great about Salem's Lot. The ending is also pretty good too. All right. Finally, we're down to the number one spot. And at the number one spot, we have a tie. I know, a tie. Between The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon and The Stand. These two books are polar opposite from each other. This is a post-apocalyptic horror sci-fi, and this is about a 9-year-old girl who gets lost in the woods and a bear is hunting her down. Let's start with this. What I love about The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon is the simple setup. A girl gets lost in the woods. It's so simple, and Stephen King makes great use of the forest and her loss of hunger and water. She goes crazy. Well, she doesn't go crazy, but she goes a little insane. She starts seeing things, and the bear is hunting her down, and the way he describes the bear, like the bear leaves a circle around her, and it like marks her like, you're mine, and she ends up actually facing the bear at the end, and she actually overcomes it. She throws a baseball, I believe, or some kind of rock at the bear and scares it, and then a hunter actually finds her and kills the bear, and then saves her before she actually is killed by the bear. And what I also love about this book is that this book takes place in one of my favorite settings for a book, is in the woods. Anybody who gets lost in the woods, I love that book instantly. Like Dreamcatcher, I love people like in winter, like The Terror, the Dreamcatcher. Anything in the winter is great, but I also love anybody who gets lost in the woods. That's a big plus for me. That book goes right there. Alright, let's talk about The Stand. This big bad boy. 1,200 pages long, and the words are that tiny. You can't even see them, they're so small. This video is 17 minutes long. Holy crap, it's going to take 3 hours to upload. But The Stand, amazing read. I thought I was going to read it much slower than I did. It's 1,200 pages long. I read it like it was 500 pages. I plowed through this book. Every sentence of this book I cared about. There wasn't a single sentence in this book that I was like, why did I need to read that? I needed to read every part of this book to actually understand what was going on. And I was so happy that I actually fell in love with this book, because this was one of the last Stephen King novels I read. I held it off to the very end, and I'm so happy I did. And it's an amazing read. The characters are much like Sleeping Beauties. There's a lot of characters in The Stand, but you care for them. You care for Stu. You care for Mother Abigail. You care for, not really Randall Flagg, but you actually like... Randall Flagg was a likable villain. Like, he was a great villain. You care for Larry. You care for Franny. You care for all of them. And that's what's great about The Stand, is the characters are you love every character in the book. I have to agree with Edward Thorne on this. He definitely took the easy way out with the ending. The literal hand of God dropped a nuke and killed everybody that was, like, on the bad side. That was definitely really weird, but everything up until that was just absolutely incredible. I loved every part of The Stand. And that is the end. I really wish I had Insomnia here to show you guys, but I don't. I'll probably get it back at some point. I'm going to do probably a part 2 of this, of my top other 10, like from 11 to 20. If you guys want to see that, leave a comment down below. Leave a comment down below what your top 10 favorite Stephen King novels are. And like, subscribe, hit the bell icon if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next video.